What up, Strong Lung fans? Sorry, I had to redo the whole episode again because I'm redoing this episode. I just did it before, but somehow the podcast, while I was recording, the recording couldn't record my voice or the sound I tried to record it. So curse that. If it ever does that again, I probably wouldn't want to really do this, but I'm definitely not going to say it out loud. I'm definitely not going to say it out loud because otherwise it's not going to be a good ending. Or let's not even talk about it. Let's just talk about the episode and make sure it gets it. Anyway, yeah. So dang. This is the biggest Lunerboonie. And they're literally the same size as the tallest tower in the world. It starts with the letter B. I don't know what it's called, but this is the Lightning Raptor and Moon Bomber. And so this episode opens with Dimey going for a walk. And without a doubt, or without warning, holy cow. A freaking earthquake. It's like whoa! Okay, sorry to yell. I'm just a little frustrated because... hold on, give me a minute. Sorry for the curse. Be right back. Okay, I'm back. Had to cheer myself up by watching something gruesome. I'm not going to tell you because I'm sure you don't want to hear anything gruesome. Otherwise, it's probably going to make you sick. You're probably going to say, I'm going to be sick if I hear it. So I'm not going to tell you. Anyway, I'm back. Yeah, Dimey notices a sudden shake. I'll just do it in fast motion. So yeah, I'm just gonna do it in a very short way. So Fango he encounters we see him just walking. He was minding his own business, and the earthquake shakes. We see it throw a whole bunch. We see cars and utilities that aren't like bouncing into the air. Well, only like utilities that aren't connected to, maybe let's say like just benches and mailboxes are bouncing off the ground, like trash cans are being thrown into the air, dumpsters are bouncing off the ground into the air, same with cars and trucks. And then Dimey's just seeing it. We see a few of the cars and trucks that bounced off the overpass explodes, and then all of a sudden we see a giant yellow foot that's literally bigger, crushes one of the left turn signal water towers, but also a lot of buildings. And Dimey's like, "Jeez!" And we see him turn around to see it, and then we pan up to the Lightning Raptor, and it sounds like this. Well, the roar sounds like this. And then after he looks up at the Lightning Raptor, he's shocked, but then the ground shakes again because of the night bomber, and we see he turns around in shock as he sees the night. We're still looking at him, and we see him turn around. Then we see his face turn shocked again, and then we cut to the night bomber approach, and we see that it crushes an airport control tower and knocks a lot of passenger airplanes into the air. And then we see her make another step. She crushes a nuclear power plant, which causes an explosion. Then we pan up to her, and then she roars too, like, or no, like this. Yeah, so yeah, the Lightning Raptor, which is the one on the right, she has like a very like rumbly roar, while the night bomber, which is the one on the left. Did I say left or right? The Lightning Raptor is the one on the right, and the night bomber is the one on... Well, the night bomber is the one on the left. And her roar sounds like a foghorn, almost. Maybe like distorted, maybe a little distorted. But not like really distorted, just a little. Like... And yeah, she's I wouldn't say distorted, it's just like maybe like a deep foghorn type sound. And then Dimey says, "You gotta be kidding me." Then we cut to Fango sleeping in his house. Then we see he's sleeping in, then Dimey he's really tired, but then then Dimey wakes them up. He calls them. I know maybe it should have been Limey instead of Dimey, but I think Dimey's better. And then he tells them that there's 2 large Lunerboonies on the loose. And then, yeah, this battle's taking place in Cransboro, and then when Fango notices them, he can actually see them. Well, he doesn't see them. He hears about them, then he gets in his mecha suit, and Spoonie and Crawley asks if they can help too. He says, okay, fine, help. Then he says, okay. He says, okay, fine, yes, you can help. And then they all show up. And we see them, and then we cut to them, like, already flying to Cransboro. And then we see them approaching the Lightning Raptor and Night Bomber, and they can see just how huge they are. They are enormous. Their feet are big, their hands are big, they are just enormous. They are so... Yeah, we see that the military's attacking them. We see the Night not the Night... The Lightning Raptor. Yeah, she crushes the tanks with her big feet. The fighter jets aren't able to dodge her big hands because her fist was even faster than the fighter jets, and they end up getting hit. Same with the helicopters. And she crushes the Humvees as well. Night Bomber does the same thing with all 4 of them, although we see her doing it to all of them at once. She just, which is actually kind of funny. And then that's when we see Fangy and Fango, or not Fango, Spoonie, and Crawley attacking them, shooting them with their weapons and their mecha suits. I don't know how to describe Fango's mecha suit. Spoonie and Crawley are driving the exact same kind of mecha suit, but they're a different color. Their mecha suit's a different color is what I mean. Not them, but their mecha suit is. And then, yeah, maybe you can, like, maybe you'll know what it looks... Well, I'm sure you'll know what it looks like when you see the episode, when the episode comes out and you see it. And you're like, holy cow, that is... What is that? I don't think I can look at that either. Well, I mean, you'd probably be scared. They fight for a while. And that's when they fight. Let's say the fight only, like, the first part of the fight only lasts for 3 minutes. You can see they're doing everything. They're doing, like, everything they can do to defeat these girls. But they are too big. They are too indestructible. The military starts doing the same thing. They keep defending themselves. And Spoonie goes for trying to punch the... Sorry to stop talking, but yeah. And then we see Crawley tries to... And then he charges at the Lightning Raptor's face, trying to give her a knuckle sandwich. Same with Spoonie, but he's charging at the Night Bomber. But then they both make a loud screeching roar to defend themselves, which pushes both Crawley and Spoonie. They go like, ah! They scream. They make like an angry scream, when they were trying to give them a knuckle sandwich. But when they get pushed back by the Lightning Raptors and Night Bombers roar, the reason why I keep like misunderstanding myself is because you know how lightning and night rhymes, sort of. Yeah, that's probably why, because light to night rhymes. Also, but anyway, yeah. We see they continue the fight, but then Crawley, that's when we see Spoonie. He sees like a light in the Lightning Raptor's navel after they crash to the ground. He looks at the the Lightning Raptor sees that there's a light in her navel, and then he sees a light in the Night Bomber's ear, and he says, "That must be the energy core." Sorry to stop talking, but yeah. He says, and then Spoonie tells Crawley that he says, I think I see their energy core. Crawley says, where are they? The Lightning Raptor's energy core is in her stomach. Look. He says, oh, I see it, says Crawley. And the Night Bomber's energy core is in her head. And he points it out to him, and then he sees, oh yeah, I see it. And then Spoonie says, you go for the Lightning Raptor, I go for the Night Bomber. He says, good choice. And they both, what can we use? Look, we can use those. He says, great idea, says Crawley. And then both of them grabs the station towers. Spoonie sees the station towers that hasn't been, like 2 station towers that hasn't been destroyed yet. And that's why I said we can, that's why Spoonie says that they can maybe use those, and then Crawley says great idea, and then they both grab the 2 towers, and we see Crawley flying to the Lightning Raptor's navel. We see Spoonie flying to the Night Bomber's ear, and then they shoot, and then they spare their energy core. And yeah. So yes, anyway, yeah. Yeah. We see them, that's when we see, well, yeah. We cut to a split screen where we see Crawley flying through the Lightning Raptor, and we see Spoonie flying through the Night Bomber, like their bodies. Yeah, the Lightning Raptor's navel, that's where Crawley's flying through to get to her energy core, and we see Spoonie flying through the Night Bomber's ear to get to her energy core. And once they both reach the energy cores in both the Lightning Raptor and Night Bomber, we see that they strike. And then that's when they both throw the tower at the core, and then the core explodes, which causes, well, it doesn't explode quite yet, but that's when they leave. We're on split screen where it shows both Spoonie and Crawley, and they both say, it's gonna blow! And then they immediately evacuate the Lightning Raptor and Night Bomber, and we see that the Lightning Raptor grabs her, puts her hands on her stomach, and then the Night Bomber puts her hands on her head, and then they make their final roar, and that's when they explode. They both explode, and then they die. And then that's when everybody cheers. And then Fango, and then they land right next to Fango, and then Fango says, "Did both of you do that? How did you do that? We flew into their body and stabbed their energy core with 2 station towers." Fango said, "Oh, how? Well, okay. Where was the energy core?" And then Crawley and Spoonie tells them where both energy cores were. Like the energy core in both the Lightning Raptor and Night Bomber was. And then after that he says, and then Fango says, "Well, at least we," and then Spoonie says, "Well, at least we defeated them." And then Crawley says, "Yeah, that was one crazy mess there." And then Fango says, "Come on, you two, let's go home." And then we see them, and then that's when we cut to a time card that says the next day. We see, even though I don't show a night scene, I think it's better just to say the next day. And we see them waking up. And then once we see them, it says, "You guys ready for the day?" They say, "Yes, sirree, Fango." That's what Spoonie says. And once they open the door, we see that a shooting star from the Dreamgate crash lands right in front of them. And then we see Hacker running up to them after they see it crash land. And then we see Hacker saying, "Fango, I need your help." And then Fango says, yeah, I know, I see it. And I'm gonna get to it. And then he says, yeah, I know. The dream gate open. I saw the shooting star that came from it. It just crash landed right in front of us. And then Hector says, really? Because I didn't see it. I felt it. Yeah, but thank goodness you saw it. Or, well, he doesn't really have to say that, but he's just glad that he says, come on, you two. Fango says, it's time to get in our mecha suits. And we see them glare, like, do their, like face, like not particularly angry, but like the face that means it's time to get back to superhero business. And that's how the episode ends.